This is MaxPreps Friday Night Live, powered by American Family Insurance.
And now it's time to check in with Steve Spiewak because he's been too quiet. I'm scared he has a burrito or something in his mouth. You've got any updates for us, Steve?
A big update from the state of South Carolina, which you've talked a good bit about already tonight, but a huge win for Somerville. They beat Colleton County, and the significance to that victory, it is career win number 599 for head coach John McKissick, who started coaching in 1952.
Where were
one
you,
year after
1952?
Joe DiMaggio retired. I mean, this guy is a living legend. He's the all-time high school career leader in wins, and next week he will go for career win number 600, and most people think that next week he will win his 600th career game. So just an outstanding story there, and certainly an amazing accomplishment by Coach McKissick in Somerville.
I hope so, Steve, and I hope you have that update for us next week when he wins. That would be phenomenal.
When. Power of positive thinking, at
That's
least.
right.
For his team, not the opponents, and we don't pick sides here, but
No,
it would make for a good story.
It would be a great, phenomenal story. Speaking of phenomenal, great story, let's see what's going on. We're going to take another live look in right now. We've got Mountain View versus Mountain Point. Right now, Mountain Point is up 7. We know this game is in the first quarter, 2 minutes, 51 seconds left, and we can keep going.
Keep counting 49, 48,
Yeah,
47.
yeah.
Hey, these are two of the top teams in Arizona. We got number 6, Mountain View, against number 4, Mountain Point. So Mountain View, I tell you, for years they were a dominant program out there in Arizona, 8-time state champs, but haven't won in more than a decade. They won the last 6 games, though, and Steve, they might be a sleeping giant right now. They're 6-2 on the season.
This is a really interesting matchup. Mountain Point, a very, very good team, and Mountain View, a better team than people thought. Mountain Point's only loss is to Brophy. They have a junior receiver, Jalen Brown, who has 10 touchdowns on the year and will probably be a junior All-American and maybe the best recruit in the state next year. So he's been sensational for them. But Mountain View lost their first 2 games. They've bounced back. They've had some impressive victories. This is an intriguing matchup. I expect Mountain Point to win, but given the way that Mountain View has performed this season, I would not be completely shocked if they pulled off the upset tonight.
This game being played in Phoenix, and we always like to identify which team is which, so you know who you're looking at when you're watching here. Mountain Point in the dark jerseys, you see them right there coming off the field. Their defense, and we of course want to identify their starting quarterback. Antonio Hinojosa has not only more than 1,400 yards so far this season, but even this early in the season, 8 games in, he's got a school record for the single season with 18 touchdown passes. He's really the straw that stirs the drink for this Pride team, isn't he, Steve?
Well, you mentioned 18 touchdowns, and 10 of those have gone to Jalen Brown. So I think both of those guys have really been catalysts for the offense for Mountain Point this year. It's going to be interesting to see how far they make it in the playoffs. Arizona has just been completely turned on its head this year with top teams losing, some teams losing to out-of-state teams, some big upsets. So there's not a real clear juggernaut right now in the state of Arizona that you can basically sign for them winning a state title. So a game like this will tell us a good deal about Mountain Point and certainly about Mountain View, but I'm just waiting for the playoffs, and there's a lot of teams that are going to be doing battle, and I just want to see who emerges from this big cluster of very good but maybe not elite Arizona teams.
I feel pretty confident that I can make one guarantee. The guarantee is Mountain Point won a week ago 70-0. That's not going to happen this week.
Yeah, you can't really guarantee the past. Right? It's the only thing you can, I guess, really not the future. And Steve, hang tight there because we know you're going to go in the hot seat in just a couple of seconds. But first, we need some more updates from you.
Well, there's a really interesting game brewing in the state of Texas. DeSoto, which is a top 10 team in the country, is tied 24-24 in the third quarter with Midlothian. Katy, which is also a top team, struggled a little bit earlier to Seven Lakes, but eventually pulled away. And I think people were expecting DeSoto to definitely pull away from a good but probably not great Midlothian team. It's 24-24 in the third. DeSoto is a team that has been shocked in seasons past, so an upset is not out of the question here. DeSoto, arguably the top team, certainly at least the number 2 team in the state of Texas, may go down tonight.
All right, it's time.
For him to get on the hot seat, right? Is that what it's time for?
Yep. Thank you very much for those updates, but now it's when it really...
How's your seat doing?
Well, I just changed from my update chair to my hot seat chair, so I'm ready to go.
I was scared where you were going with that. I was like, oh, we're on TV.
Does that mean that the burrito is not in front of you at the hot seat chair? It's only in front of you at the update, at the scores?
You guys will be happy to know I finished my Mexican dinner a few hours ago, and I'm ready to roll.
Fantastic. Here's question number 1.
All right, question number 1. You know, this was a very eventful week for one of the top running backs in the country, Thomas Tyner. So many people know of him, the kid who had 10 rushing touchdowns in one game earlier this season.
Right.
He committed to Oregon as a junior earlier this year. He said, I'm not going to Oregon.
He's everywhere.
I believe yesterday he said, I'm now going back to Oregon. Steve, what's the story with this kid?
So within a span of 48 hours, Thomas Tyner decommitted from Oregon, suggesting that he wanted to take some more official visits to check out some other schools. And then 2 days later, he announced that he was firm in his pledge to Oregon. He committed as a junior, guys, and I think he felt like maybe he was missing a little bit of the recruiting experience in taking some official visits to different campuses and getting the hard sell from some different schools and different programs. But ultimately, I think schools will still be calling him, but I expect him to be an Oregon Duck and sign with Chip Kelly's squad in February.
No doubt. And listen, I don't fault him necessarily for maybe I do fault him for decommitting, but you don't commit that early. Take your visits. Go to your 5 schools. It's a great experience as a teenager to get a chance to see the country and then commit to the school you want to go to.
Absolutely. I don't blame him. I mean, you know what? You take your time. Figure it out, okay? This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So take your time and figure out what you want to do, and hopefully he'll make the right decision, because that's really the important thing. So question number 2, if you could put together one matchup this year, what teams would you want to see and why?
I would take our number 1 and number 2 teams, Manatee out of Florida versus John Curtis, our number 2 team. It's kind of a study in contrasts. Manatee is a large school powerhouse from the state of Florida, defending Class 7A state champions. Very, very good program led by head coach Joe Canaan. John Curtis is a small private school from southern Louisiana that has probably a third or a fourth of the students, maybe even fewer than Manatee. But almost every boy in that school plays football, and they have just talent that is on par with Manatee. So a huge Florida public school power versus a small little juggernaut private school from Louisiana. They're the country's 2 best teams, and it would be one heck of a football game.
I say so myself.
Very convenient that you picked the number 1 versus number 2 in your rankings. The game I would like to see is the number 1 team in your rankings, that being Manatee, and the number 1 team in the computer rankings being Trinity. And then we could see who's right, the computers or Spiewak. What do you think, Steve?
I'll tell you what, I would certainly pay for my seat for that one. I think both teams would probably score more than 30 or 40 points. That would be a shootout, to say the least.
I can probably get you a press pass and save you the few bucks too, if you need. All right, next question. We talk all the time about the seniors. We talk often about the juniors who are soon to be seniors, but let's go to sophomores. Who is the top sophomore in the country right now?
Well, it's obviously very early when you're evaluating sophomores, but a kid that I really like is Damian Harris, a running back out of Madison Southern. He had 8 offers before his sophomore season, and right now, through 7 games, this young man has rushed for 32 touchdowns, over 2,000 yards. He's unstoppable. He's not playing elite-level competition and defenses, but he's done what you expect an elite blue-chip player to do. He's dominated when he's supposed to dominate. I talked to his coach earlier this week. Talk about Thomas Tyner going to Oregon. Oregon is actually recruiting this young man heavily, and there's mutual interest there. So this kid could be a kid that follows in the footsteps of Thomas Tyner, but he's actually visiting Michigan tomorrow for their game against Michigan State. But this is a young man, guys. Mark his name down. You will hear a lot more about him over the next 2.5 years.
All right, we'll keep that in mind. Question number 4. When it's all said and done, who will be the highest ranked Texas team at the end of the year?
Well, I'm going to go out on a limb because they're only winning by a touchdown right now, but I'm going to go with DeSoto from Texas. I mentioned that they have been susceptible to upsets in the past, but I really like this year's team. They're just very, very talented and very explosive on offense. Again, mentioning Oregon, this is a team that looks like Oregon on the high school level with how explosive they are and how quickly they can get on the board. I think that they'll have a more difficult bracket to navigate in the playoffs than a team like Katy or than a team like Steele. And so I could see them topping out in the state of Texas if they're able to finish the job and win a state title.
All right, now, Steve, you and I and Joanna over here have been to a lot of high school football games in our day. We want you to talk to us about who you think the most underappreciated job at a high school football game is, on or off the field. It could be the long snapper. It could be the woman taking tickets at the door. Who is it to you?
The mascot?
Well, to your point, Jason, there are many people that make a high school football game successful, many volunteers and people that give up their time, and we're thankful for all of them. But there's a special place in my heart for the people working the concession stand because many times, guys, they can't even see the game. They just have to hear the crowd noise and try to figure out what's going on.
It's true. I think you're right. I'm afraid that I agree with you on that one.
I went to a game last night. I was at South Plantation, Santa Lucia's, and I was there 90 minutes early. And
why were you there so early?
I was working hard.
That's a whole other story.
I was working hard.
We won't get there.
One of the gentlemen working the concession stand was flipping burgers 90 minutes before the game to get them ready for the game. He was working hard, and I hate to break a little secret of his. I saw him sneak one of the burgers he was eating as he was cooking. So.
Well, if you're there and you've got the hardest job like Steve and I agree on, well, you're entitled to have a burger and a hot dog and some French fries while you're at it.
Skittles, maybe?
And even some Skittles. Let's go ahead and take a live look outside. We're going to check in right now with Sheldon versus Folsom right now in the second quarter. Folsom up 6. This live look is brought to you by Play on Sports Network.
Folsom in the dark jerseys right here on offense. They come in with an unblemished record. We mentioned earlier in the show there's 57 undefeated teams in the state of California, and that is one way to time it perfectly. Folsom gets in the end zone. Touchdown pass right there. They're shutting out Sheldon. It's second quarter, Steve, and they look like they're on their way to keep this undefeated record on the year intact.
Well, now you guys get to see on film why Folsom scores so many points and why they have so many impressive guys lining up behind center. They have a tremendous offensive scheme. It's a thing of beauty the way that they spread the ball around. This is not your traditional spread offense. The way that they really practice their plays and how precise they are on their routes and their timing. It's really remarkable. And Jake Browning, only a sophomore. Look at that, wide open. I mean, nobody even near him. Walking in for the 2-point conversion. Jake Browning thriving. He's the guy that threw 10 touchdowns in his debut as a sophomore. But as I evaluate sophomore quarterbacks, it's kind of an interesting issue when you're looking at a guy like Jake Browning. How well would he do in a different offense? Is he partially a product of Folsom's offensive scheme, which has produced 2 other guys who have thrived and put up some eye-popping numbers? So it's going to be interesting to watch him over the next 2 or 3 seasons. By the time he's a senior, he will have accomplished a ton offensively and will have passed for probably 10,000 yards at this rate. But it's going to be interesting to see if colleges buy into him as a legitimate passer on the college level or if they see him more as a product of his high school offense.
Steve, it's so difficult sometimes because, listen, is the purpose of high school football to get these kids prepared to play on the next level, or is it to win football games? And, I think the argument can be made on both sides of it. So the product of the system, to me, only means is the product a win? And right now, Chris Richardson, the head coach there at Folsom, getting the job done, scoring points and scoring them in bunches.
This is MaxPreps Friday Night Live, powered by American Family Insurance.